Hello and welcome to One Planet Conservation Awareness Let's Talk About series. And today is National Okapi Day. So we're joined today by Lucas, who's from the Okapi Conservation Project. And today we're going to be talking about what the species is, where it lives, and some of the conservation issues surrounding the species. So Lucas, thanks for joining us. Can you just give us a quick introduction to yourself and your background in conservation?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here today for World Okapi Day. Like Jordan said, my name is Lucas. I am with the Okapi Conservation Project. I've had an interest in animals and conservation my entire life. I grew up with a little creek or stream in my backyard, and I would always catch little frogs and turtles and snakes and always bring them home and show my parents. And I was always an animal lover. And then that led me to go to college. I always wanted to do something with biology. And I ultimately found myself working with sea turtles, interestingly, and that was about a decade ago that I started working with sea turtles. But just I think it was about 8 years ago, I ended up at the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. I actually started in a fundraising position, raising money the zoo, and then I moved over to marketing and public relations and developed my skills there. But I was always missing something. I always wanted to do something with conservation in the field, saving animals. And then I found myself in a conservation position at the zoo where they let me coordinate a lot of the work with the Okapi Conservation Project. So I help coordinate all the efforts for World Okapi Day, like today, and then do a little bit of fundraising for the project and work with our staff of 45 people over in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the Okapis found, helping them coordinate and evaluate all of our programs with community support, agroforestry, women's groups, working with indigenous peoples and everything like that. I really enjoy it.
That sounds like quite a jump to go from working with sea turtles to go into a zoo and then working with this crazy species all the way over in the Congo as well.
Yep. It's kind of it just kind of interestingly fell in my lap, and I had to take full advantage of it. I didn't. I would say when I first started working at the zoo, I knew what an okapi was, but I didn't know how incredibly cool they are. And then through this position, I've just learned so much, and I just want to share the cool natural history and all the crazy things about Okapi and the plights that they're facing, all the threats in the wild, sharing that with the wider global audience.
Okay, well, this is your chance. So for
Yes,
those
absolutely.
listeners that don't know what an okapi is,
Yeah.
please do tell us, and maybe you can model with the toy in the background on your shirt.
Yes,
Uh,
this is an okapi and also on my shirt. So okapi is the only living relative to the giraffe. In fact, evolutionarily speaking, it's thought that the okapi is older than the giraffe, and the giraffe actually broke off from an okapi. So even though it has stripes on its rump and its legs, it's not related to zebras. I always tell people that tigers have stripes, but they're not related to zebras.
very
But their
true.
closest living relative is the giraffe. They have ossicones like giraffe. They have very short fur like a giraffe. They have kind of the same head structure as a giraffe. So their closest living relative is the giraffe.
Okay, and obviously that model is not the correct size of an okapi.
No, no, not
How
at all.
big are they?
So females tend to be a little bit bigger than males. And they can stand at right about 6 feet, 6 or 7 feet when their neck is stretched. And then males can stand at about 5 or 6 feet. And males tend to weigh a little, or females tend to weigh a little bit more too, because they have to carry the calves.
And the only place they can be found is in the jungles of the Congo, right?
Correct. Yes. So they are endemic to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. There are some records of okapi being found in Uganda in the late 1880s, but we believe that they've since been extirpated. There's been camera trap studies done, but they haven't seen any evidence of okapi in Uganda. So it's pretty strongly believed that they're still only found and endemic to the Democratic Republic of the Congo in the dense rainforests.
That's amazing. So how come? So what I know about the ecology of these forests in the Congo and Central Africa is well, and jungles all around the world. It's very rare to have such large species inside the jungle. It's better to be small in the jungle. You have
Mhm.
dwarf elephants, you have mouse deer that are tiny. So
Yep.
why is the okapi so big, but yet lives in such a dense habitat?
I think they've just learned to adapt to living in these forests. So they do share the rainforest with forest elephants, which their taxonomy is kind of up in the air with scientists now. Some scientists believe that it's actually a third species of elephant, but these elephants will actually create these big tunnels through the forest. And Okapi actually use these tunnels, these trails through the forest to maneuver, and a lot of other animals do as well. They have kind of an oily coating on their skin. So if you ever have the incredible opportunity to pet an okapi, you will get kind of a brownish oil on your skin. It's a residue, and you actually have to scrape it off. It's kind of hard to wash off. That's thought to be some sort of insect repellent, maybe, or even kind of a waterproofing in the rainforest.
Okay, and in the Congo, you have these amazing spaces in the forest that are opened up, where you see all kinds of animals like the gorillas uh,
Mhm.
and the rhinos and the elephants all meeting together. Do the Okapi also go into these clearings?
Yes, interesting that you bring that up too. So we call them edos in Congo. In the U.S., they're called glades. I'm not sure what they're called in the U.K., but they're a natural opening in the forest that has access to water, a lot of minerals, and animals come from all over to to drink the water and also to eat a lot of the minerals. A lot of animals, particularly mammals, will eat clay, and that helps absorb any toxins from any toxic plants that they eat. And so these animals are attracted to these areas for the minerals, the salts, the water. And Okapi do frequent these areas. And I said that it's funny that you bring that up because we just launched a camera trap study to the nearest Edo called MEHWA, MEHWA, where we set up a bunch of camera traps around to document the existence of Okapi there and see what other species are frequenting these forests. And we've gotten some incredible camera trap footage.
I mean, I saw on your website you guys have got the first footage of an okapi eating in the wild, and being an okapi, right?
Yes, yes. So it wasn't the first footage of an okapi eating, but it was the first footage of an okapi calf in the wild. And
Okay.
so we collected this in February of 2018. There has been no footage of a wild okapi calf ever collected, and we just happened to collect it on our camera trap survey near our station in Apulu, in the middle of the Okapi conservation, or in the middle of the Okapi Wildlife Reserve. And what's interesting is we actually saw this female in December, very pregnant. She was about to give birth. And typically, with their natural history, when okapi give birth, the calf will go into a nest. It'll hide between buttress roots of a tree or under a log or in a bush. And the calf stays there for several months, and the mother actually never comes to the calf. And this is thought to believed to be because the mother doesn't want to leave her scent with the okapi calf because their main predator is leopards. And so what she'll do is she'll communicate through infrasound to call the okapi calf out of the nest to come nurse about twice a day, and then the calf will go back and hide in the nest. And so after that, we believe that the camera trap footage that we collected of the pregnant female in December, she just gave birth after that footage. And then the calf was hiding the first 2 or so months of its life. And then once it started following the mother around, that's when we captured it on the camera trap footage.
That's amazing. And in captivity, do they also do that? To the
Yes, yes. So
Right.
what's interesting is we've learned so much from wild okapi, and we used to actually have okapi at the station in Apulu. We no longer have okapi there, but typically at zoos, they have to create what they call a hide for the calf. So if they're keeping the mother and the calf together, they'll create kind of, whether it's with hay bales or if it's a wall, somewhere where the youngster can be really confined so it feels protected and away from the mother to kind of mimic the natural behavior.
Ah, very interesting. So obviously, in captivity, there isn't many threats to animals. They have a very
Mhm.
nice life most of the time. But in the
Mhm.
wild, what are some of the problems that the okapi are facing?
It's loss of habitat. Like with many animals, many endangered animals around the world, it's primarily loss of habitat. And loss of habitat is such a broad term, and there's different ways that animals can lose habitat, but primarily in the Congo, it's through slash and burn farming, logging, and gold mining. And so what I mean by slash and burn farming is typically smaller communities will they'll cut down a section of forest, plant their crops for that year, and then those crops take up all the nutrients. And then the next planting season, they have to do the same thing. They have to cut down the forest, burn it to put the nutrients back in the soil, plant their plants, and then they'll do that year after year. With gold mining, it's these typically small scale illegal gold mining within the reserve that destroys the forest. So there will be the mine and then there's the camp. So it's kind of double the space, double the deforestation because you have to cut down trees to set up the mines. But then people need to live near the mine. So then they cut out a section area, another area of the forest, so they can actually have their huts and their houses to stay overnight.
And these are illegal mines.
Illegal mines, yeah, primarily gold and diamonds in the reserve, but it can be it can be many other minerals all throughout the Congo, but typically in the reserve, I would say most of it is gold mining, but there are occasional diamond mines that we have to deal with in the southern part of the reserve too.
Okay, and you say that that's what we have to deal with. So can you tell us a little bit about the Okapi Conservation Project and what they're actually doing both on the ground and around the world with the captive Okapi as well?
Absolutely. So our primary focus is working with the community. So we're trying to educate the communities on the importance of protecting the forest, not only for the benefit of Okapi and other animals that live there, but also for the benefit of the people and the wider global population, because these rainforests act as the lungs of the world. Same thing with the Amazon rainforest and the rainforest in Southeast Asia, because trees take out all of the carbon dioxide and then expel oxygen. So it's fantastic to preserve these forests, not only for the animals, but for the people too. But a lot of these people are struggling to eat, struggling to find access to clean water. So what we do is we provide additional support, access to clean water sources, strategies, so they can increase their crop yields and to reduce their incursions into the forest. And so we have what we call our agroforestry program. And that is where we provide nitrogen fixing trees that they plant in between their crop rows that actually put nutrients back into the soil as they grow. And so these are legumes, beans, that sort of thing. Those are nitrogen fixing plants that put nutrients back in the soil. So they can use the same plot of land for up to 10 years. And then in between that, when they use all the nutrients in the soil, it reduces the amount of time that it needs to lay fallow, or so they don't plant anything. And then they can start up the next 2 or 3 years in that same plot of land. So that reduces them cutting down the forest each year to grow their food. And then we also provide empowerment opportunities for women, because women are some of the strongest voices in the community for our conservation mission. We work with them to provide small enterprises. We provide them with the training, capacity building, and any materials that they need to start up their small businesses to sell these items in the local markets to generate some income for their families to purchase food or replace a roof on their house, or whatever they need the money for. So it's all about finding kind of a balance between the people and the animals living in this area, because we don't want to sacrifice people's lives or their livelihoods for the benefit of the animals. We want to find a common ground that they can both coexist peacefully. And so we want to raise the profile and increase or improve their livelihoods while also protecting the forest for the Okapi.
That's amazing. I think it's really interesting what you're doing with the planting, planting of trees in the farmland. I think this is a big topic at the moment. The drawing carbon out of the atmosphere, and just by planting trees, you're actually doing so much. You're building habitat, you're taking carbon out of the atmosphere, you're giving more oxygen, you're increasing yields. There's all these big technologies that have been used and radical plans, but really, if you just plant more trees, then you can fix all the problems.
Definitely, definitely. And we have, through our agroforestry program, a component of that is reforestation efforts. So any old agricultural plots or where old buildings used to be, they're no longer there. We actually recruit a lot of the school children to plant these seedlings that we'll produce in our nursery. So it gives them a very strong connection to the conservation mission and the conservation message. And it really helps them understand at a young age how important it is to protect the forest.
So the Okapi is actually a brilliant example of a flagship species, because really by protecting the Okapi, you're actually protecting all the species and the communities in the forest as well.
Absolutely. And we really like to use the okapi as a flagship species because it is the most respected species in the Congo. It is the symbol of all conservation efforts there. Every kid 2 and above knows what an okapi is, but when you get outside of the Congo, 2% of the world population knows what an okapi is. But everyone in the Congo, everything in the Congo is named after okapi. There's okapi logistics, okapi gum, okapi water, okapi cigarettes. Radio Okapi is the largest radio network within the country. Everything is named after the Okapi. So using the Okapi as a flagship species has really helped us protect the forest for all the other animals that live within it.
So now your job is to spread the Okapi message to
Yes,
everybody. So
yes.
everyone becomes obsessed with Okapi, not just the people
Mhm.
of the Congo, right?
Yep, yep, yep.
That's awesome. So how can people at home or people like myself, how can they help the efforts of maybe not just Okapi, but help the
Mhm.
efforts going on in the Congo with the reforestation and community work?
I think first, just telling people about Okapi. I think that's our biggest hurdle right now is just educating the global audience, the global population, what an Okapi is, how cool it is, and how important it is, using it as a flagship species to protect these important rainforests for the entire world, not only for the communities that are living there, but for the entire world because they are the lungs of the planet. So telling your friends and family, anyone you know about Okapi, visiting your local zoo. Several of the zoo partners or zoos that house Okapi around the world support our work, all of our agroforestry programs, our women empowerment programs, our access to clean water sources over in the Okapi Wildlife Reserve. Several zoos around the world are supporting all of our work. So by you frequenting those zoos and learning about Okapi, you're supporting our project. And also for a little bit more tangible thing, one of the things that's commonly mined, not in the reserve necessarily, but in other parts of Okapi habitat is coltan. It's a mineral that's found in the ground, and that's mined for any cell phones, tablets, anything like that. Any electronics typically have some sort of some amount of coltan in it. And so by recycling your cell phones, in theory, it's reducing demand for more coltan, the mining of more coltan. And that can protect Okapi, gorillas, chimpanzees, forest elephants, all the animals that are found in the dense rainforests of Central Africa.
Well, I think that's really sums it up for everything. When people ask how they can have an impact on, conservation and, protecting biodiversity, it's less. The answer is always less. Like,
This
don't
is
get
always
the latest iPhone. Don't overconsume. So if you can recycle what you have, and maybe you don't get the latest iPhone, maybe you keep the one you have for another year. It's not just because it's going in the landfill. You're actually, stopping
Absolutely.
deforestation.
And then you don't have to learn new technology. Every time I get a new iPhone, I have to learn all the new software, and it takes me a few weeks to get used to it. But I usually use my iPhones until they die, until I absolutely cannot use them anymore, or if I go swimming with it, because that did happen the last time. But yeah, I use my cell phones till the day they die, and then until I'm forced to get a new one. But
Very good.
any way to reduce your carbon footprint, that can also help, but just reducing your impact on the world, that can help not only Okapi, but every animal that you love and care about.
Absolutely. And how can people get involved more with Okapi Days? There's some events going on, or some areas where people can get more information.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a website, www.worldokapiday.org. Normally, a lot of zoos that support us have celebrations on World Okapi Day, but because of COVID happening right now, I think a lot of them are moved virtually or not happening at all, but we are trying to celebrate on social media as much as possible. I know that there's a few zoos on the US side that are sending people to our website just to learn what they can do, educate people what they can do. But if your local zoo is open and you feel safe and comfortable going, I recommend visiting and frequenting them, learning a little bit more about Okapi, and just visiting our website, worldokapiday.org, to learn what you can do. Next year, fingers crossed, if all of this has kind of settled down, there's a vaccine and there's a lot more safety measures in place, we hope to get back to full blast on all the celebrations around the world.
Okay, so put it in the calendars for 2021, World Okapi Day.
Yes. October 18th every year.
Absolutely, that's perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've certainly learned a lot about the Okapi.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to, I can talk about Okapi all day.
Well, maybe if people can't get to the local zoo, they can contact you
Yes, definitely.
and they can find out more about the species and how they can help.
Mhm. Absolutely. You are free to email us at info@okapiconservation.org if you want to learn anything more, or if you want additional resources or photos or anything to use in your own celebrations or fundraising events for Okapi conservation. I'm happy to help any way I can.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lucas, and happy Okapi Day.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Happy Okapi Day to you too.